But anyway, the Game Commission Islands, we allow public access on some of them, and some of them we don't. The larger islands, Hoover's Island downstream further, Hoover's, Swiggert's, Clemson's, and Haldeman's are pretty big islands, and they're all propagation islands. We use those for waterfowl propagation, so we don't allow access on those. The only time that we allow access on those islands is after Christmas during the late flintlock season, because there are deer on these islands out here. By that time of year, the waterfowl are usually off, the ponds are usually, or the impoundments are usually frozen over or dried up on some of the islands. So we allow that access for hunting purposes after Christmas. But other than that, those islands are propagation islands for waterfowl. In the springtime, they come up, they use them for resting places, and some will stay and use for nesting. And in the fall, during the fall duck and goose seasons, they're kind of safety zones, so to speak, where they can go in there and rest without being disturbed. So that's why we don't allow access on those islands.
Every year, each of these islands ends up with deer having young. There are 2 flocks of turkeys that go around from island to island. All kinds of cavity-dwelling birds, pileated woodpeckers, wood ducks, geese.
I've even seen red-headed woodpeckers out over these islands.
Yes.
It's not a very common bird.
So I mean, they are great nurseries. It's so neat to see all the stuff. Fox. We see more fox now. And I'm fortunate. I get to watch all this stuff from my front porch. So, we see a lot of it. When I was a kid, there was a 3rd one up here, and this rock bar didn't even exist 50 years ago. Those islands, those mud bars right here with trees on, they didn't exist. They were just a little low gravel bar at that time. But this area was a natural ford across the river. It was a natural ford for Indians. It was a natural ford for the colonials. The historical significance is that on October the 16th, 1755, there was an event took place in the Penns Creek Valley called the Penns Creek Massacre. Most of you have heard about it. The Penns Creek Massacre, the Delaware and Shawnee Indians came down the Penns Creek Valley, massacring the settlers that were there. They killed or captured 26, and a handful, I've never got an exact number, a handful of survivors came to where, straight in from us, Penns Creek once flowed into the river, right here at the head of the Isle of Q. At that spot, a man by the name of George Gabriel had a trading post. Those settlers came down, all assembled at Gabriel's blockhouse. They had a battle with the Indians late that afternoon. Knowing they were surrounded, they could not go up the west shore of the river. They wanted to get to the Indian village of Shamokin, which is Sunbury, where Fort Augusta is, but Fort Augusta hadn't been built yet. But to escape the Indians, that night, under the cover of darkness, they forded the Susquehanna River, walked across, right here, where we're at, walked across the river and walked up the east shore to the Indian village of Shamokin, because the Iroquois were friendly to the English.